You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. I'm not going to go to where we left off because honestly, I don't remember where we left off. But I do remember, but you guys don't remember, and it makes no difference, so let's just keep going. All right. Now, we talked about the godly soul, the animal soul. Every Jew has two, right? The one that drives the car this way, the one who wants to crash it off the cliff. Every single one, both of those have 10 faculties or 10 parts to them. Okay? So within your soul, and this is the same within both your animal soul and your godly soul, you have 10 parts. Why do you have 10 parts? Have you ever heard of the spheras in like Kabbalah or anything? That basically when Hashem created the world, he created spiritual worlds, and those spiritual worlds eventually birthed this physical world. And the way he did it, think about it like rungs on a ladder. There's 4 worlds. There's Atzilus, which is the top. There's Bria, which is the creation. There's Yetzira, which is formation. And there's Asiya, which is the world of action. That's where we are. But every single world has 10 levels from top to bottom. And those 10 levels reflect the 10 levels of the human makeup. So the first 3 are intellectual. Let's think about them as a person, right? Every person has 3 intellectual faculties: Chokhmah, Bina, and Dat. Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Okay? The way your brain works is that you have these 3 faculties. So for example, you get an idea. Someone says, chicken poppers. Now, you don't even know what chicken poppers are yet, but you're like, okay, chicken poppers, that's an idea. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know if I like chicken poppers, it doesn't make me hungry for them, but I heard chicken poppers. Okay, fine. That is called chokhmah. Chokhmah, even though people think, oh, someone is chacham, someone is smart, that means they know a lot, that's very different than wisdom. Wisdom is acquired, okay? Chokhmah is like an initial flash of lightning strike of an idea within your mind. The reason I'm telling you how this works for a human is because the way the worlds were created were a reflection of the way our souls are created. Okay, so our souls existed before the world was created, and therefore the world was created in our image, and we're created in Hashem's image. So basically, you have this chokhmah, this initial, like, you got an idea, chicken poppers, the lightning strike hit you. Now you're like, well, what are chicken poppers, right? So you start looking into what chicken is, and you look at what poppers are, and you look at their sauce, and you look at how to make them, and all of a sudden you have this big, developed, brainstormed idea where in that level, the second level, which is Bina, which is understanding, this is after you know the original chicken popper idea. Now you're understanding and you have a full knowledge, like you are the chicken popper connoisseur, okay? There's no more, you could give a TED talk on chicken poppers, okay? Which you probably could, right? Yeah. Okay, so you have a full understanding of what that is. That doesn't mean you want to eat chicken poppers, okay? It just means you have full understanding, okay? So the first faculty of the way your brain works is that you know you hear chicken poppers, and then you have a full exploratory understanding of what chicken poppers are. The last phase is knowledge, which is Dat. Okay, now happens to be Chokhmah, Bina, and Dat are the Chet, Bet, Dalet of Chabad. Okay, so Chabad doesn't stand for kosher meals in Italy. Chabad stands for Chokhmah, Bina, and Dat, which is Chokhmah, wisdom, Bina is understanding, and Dat is knowledge. Okay? Those 3 are your intellectual faculties. Now, what is Dat? Dat is to know someone, or know something, or know something. When the Torah describes knowing something, is very different than when we describe knowing something. So John, if I asked you, hey, do you know that guy? Sure you do. You've met him before. You know him, right? But do you know your wife? Yeah. They're not the same knowledge, okay? Knowing or knowledge in the Torah It says, Adam yada et Chava. Adam knew Chava. They were literally created from the same, they formed a bond, okay? Knowledge is a bond between what you know and yourself. So therefore, you heard of chicken poppers. Now you fully understand what they are because you've gone through Bina, you've gone through the second stage, you've extrapolated all the details, and now you know it. Now you understand it. How do you know chicken poppers? When chicken poppers become a part of you, where your whole life is chicken poppers, because you and chicken poppers are one. Okay, so dat encompasses you actually knowing someone, because when a man knows a woman in a Torah, that means they got it on. Okay, because they connected, they bonded to form one. Okay, when you know something, you don't have to go through the understanding of why you know it and why you should know it every time. You already know it. It's like knowing your name. It's part of you, right? I don't have to say, every time I call your name, I don't have to say John, and you go, okay, so my parents met, and then they got married, and they had me, and they liked the name, and I was born, and they named me John, and that's why you're calling me John, right? You just know that your name is John. John is much a part of you. It's not something you have to think about, because it is you, right? That's what knowledge is. So Chabad is based on the three intellectual faculties, and the reason is because, remember I said there's 10, and every world has 10 levels, where the light of Hashem works its way from top to bottom all the way down until it becomes 4 worlds later, physical matter, where we actually have a world here, right? Because it all was spiritual matter, and then it created physical. The way the world created, wasn't that Hashem, it was just Hashem, and then he snapped his fingers, and then it was all here. It was, okay, I'm going to set this in motion so that if I took a hose and I ran it from here to 1,000 miles away, what I put through here, the amount of water pressure that's left at the end is going to spit out something. That something is the world. That's how this world exists. Hashem said, okay, I'm going to put a whole bunch of water through this hose, and by the time it spits out something at the end of the hose, which is so far away from where the water originated, that water is going to be a solid. It's not even going to be a liquid anymore, because it's going to have gone through this whole process and eventually changed into physical matter. That's how he created worlds. So there's 4 worlds, and every world has 10 levels. So think that there's 40 levels from the time that Hashem decided, I'm going to put water, I'm going to plug that hose into the spigot, and I'm going to make water come out, to the time that water actually formed something on the other end, okay? Because for 40 worlds, it's all spiritual. You can't, or 39 worlds, you can't see any of it. And only on the 40th one, all of a sudden, at the end of the hose, there's a little trickle of water, right? A big test for us is to understand that little drop that comes out at the end came from a huge waterfall on the other side of the hose, right? That's a big thing, because we're so far away. We're like, dude, this little thing that's dripping 1 drop every 3 hours, you mean to tell me that came from a fire hydrant worth of water? Like, what do you even talk, that they don't resemble each other? How can you tell me? Like, but what if there's all these kinks in the hose along the way, and every time it goes another level, there's another kink and another kink, and water is getting squeezed in every level where it's being held back, that by the time it comes out, all you have is a little tiny drop, right? That is the way the world is created, from Hashem's infinite light of, hey, I'm the sun, and I could burn you all out, and no one can stand here near me, to, oh, by the way, you get to sit on the beach and enjoy the warmth of the sun and also get a nice tan, right? There's a big gap between I'm going to burn you to the time that you get to enjoy light and heat, right? Just like if I shot out the spigot in your face, it would blow you away, versus if you were on the other end of the hose and got 1 little drop of water to drink, right? Like, you can't drink from Niagara Falls, you'll drown. But if you're way down at the end of a river that leads to a pond, yeah, you could pull some water out and drink, even if that water originated in Niagara Falls, right? So In all of these levels, you have 3 levels that are intellectual, where the way that we're built, and this is just human psychology, everything that we do in our lives stems from these 10 levels, and predominantly the first 3. Because you know they say you are what you eat? Well, really, you act what you know. And the reason I'm saying that is because the more you know, the more your emotions change as a result of it. Your wants, your desires, your fears, your loves, your actions are all just reflections of what you know. I'm going to give you the biggest example. When you have a 9-year-old kid coming to help you with Kiddush, to set up Kiddush. Now you, as the master caterer, are there not because you want to eat the chicken nuggets. You do it every day. It's what you have. It's what you do. You can eat them whenever you want. You're there because that's your job. That's what brings you parnasa. You're there to make the family, the customer happy, right? The kids who work for you that are 14 years old are there to make money. Now, they don't care about pleasing the customer the way you do. It's not their business, right? Their understanding of what their task is very different than yours. The 9-year-old kid who comes with his father in the morning to davening and is bored out of his mind and says, let me go bother John in the kitchen and John's going to give me an extra cookie. What he knows is that he could get an extra cookie out of this and he doesn't have to sit in davening because it's boring for him as a 9-year-old, right? What he knows and what you know and what the 14-year-old know dictates all of your decision making. It changes how you feel because you're like, I don't need a cookie. You don't even have a desire for the cookie. Whereas the kid who only knows that if he's good and helps John, he gets an extra cookie or an extra chicken popper or whatever it is, all of his actions for that same duration of time that you're working are based on him getting a cookie, okay? Right. So when you know different things, it changes what you want. And the 7 other faculties after Chokhmah, Bina, and Dat, which are your intellectual, those are all emotive attributes, things that you feel. So Chesed, which is kindness, Gvura, which is judgment, Tiferet, which is the mixture of both, like mercy, right? Fear and love. All of these things that drive you as a person, intellectually, psychologically, those are all results of what you think, what you understand, and what you know. So your godly soul has all 10 of these. Your animal soul has all 10 of these. It means that your godly soul goes through a process and you are accessing both all the time. So for example, when you think you have an idea and it says, I'm going to put on tefillin right now. And then you're like, well, what are tefillin and why should I put them on? And then you know that you want to put on tefillin because you've understood it so much and you understand the benefit of putting on tefillin. You don't have to convince yourself to put tefillin on every day. You just know what they are and you know the benefits and you know you want to do it. So you know it now. Once you know it, whatever that is that you know, it could be weight loss, it could be whatever it is. Let's say you want to lose weight. You're saying, okay, I have this lightning flash. I need to lose 15 pounds. Then you're like, okay, well, why do I need to lose 15 pounds? Because it's not healthy. My doctor says it's not healthy. Well, do I even care? And all of a sudden you start looking into all the health benefits of losing weight and the risks of not losing weight. And you start researching, and all of a sudden you see you can get diabetes and heart attacks and strokes and all this other stuff, right? And let's say you spent 30 minutes a day for a month learning all the benefits and risks of losing weight or not losing weight. Once you did that and you dwelled on it for that long, 30 days later, you wouldn't have to be convinced. You would know, it would become a part of you, it would bond with who you are, that it's important for you to lose weight. Which means now, if you were hungry before, everyone thinks they don't control hunger. I'm just hungry, it's not me, it's what I feel. If there was a donut in front of you or a carrot in front of you, you wouldn't have to make this big assessment, because if you really studied it and understand all the benefits and risks, all of a sudden, what you want changes. Your actual emotions, right? Like, go back to psychology Freud and whatever else, right? Like, people used to think that if you were unhappy, the way to fix you was to make you happy. We'll force you to take these happy pills and you'll feel really good, and that'll fix your problem. And then cognitive behavioral therapy came around, and all of a sudden psychologists were like, wait a second, well, why is he unhappy? What's the root of this? How do I get to that? And if I can change that and his understanding and what he thinks, all of a sudden that will snowball, where the avalanche at the end will be that person will be happy. So some people could say, okay, let's just say a doctor. Someone keeps having pain in their foot or pain in their back. And they say, oh, well, he has pain. How do I get rid of that pain? Oh, I give him Advil and it gets rid of the pain. Sure, you could keep giving him Advil. That doesn't really reduce the root cause or get rid of his pain. It just numbs it, right? You're just changing symptom to symptom, from one symptom to another symptom. If you're like, oh, he has a herniated disc in his back, let's do back surgery and get rid of the pain, he won't have to take Advil anymore, because now you're addressing the root. And with humans, the root of everything that you feel and everything that you do is what you know. And know is not, hey, I know about this. It's knowledge in the Torah sense. It's, I looked into something, I discerned all of the reasons why it's important to me, and I've done it so much that now I don't have to do it anymore. I just know it. It's a part of me, right? If I say to you, hey, your toe's hurting, you could be like, yeah, my toe's hurting. I'll be like, how do you know? Are you like, well, I have a nervous system, and it sends shocks from my foot to my brain, and my brain analyzes it and then tells me, and then I think about it, and then I can determine that my foot... No, you just know it. It's part of you, right? Knowledge, intellectually, is I know something so much, it's part of me now. I don't have to think about it, okay? And the only way to get to knowledge is to first have chokhmah, first have an idea, then understand it fully, because you can't get to it unless you understand all aspects of it, and then review it so much that it becomes a part of you that you don't need to review it anymore, okay? If you do that, then the next 7 faculties of your soul, they just kind of come along for the ride. It's like dominoes. Imagine you have 1 domino on the bottom, 1 a step up, and 1 all the way to the last step at the top, and then 7 that are all beneath that. As long as I hit the first one, to hit the second one, to hit the third, to go up the hill, if I hit number 3, all 7 just follow, okay? The second you know something, so much so, then the rest of your midos or the rest of your emotions, they all follow. You don't have to do anything in order to change what you fear and what you love. If you fear your wife because you know that when you come home late, she gets upset, right? That is going to drive you to not make her upset or not come home late, right? Fair? Mm-hmm. Okay. Your emotions say, oh, that's a lot of hassle, I don't want to deal with that, blah, 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 because you already know what is going to happen. If you know that putting on tefillin every day creates a bond between you and Hashem, right? And you review that every single day, and you understand that Hashem is your life source, you understand that without Him telling you to exist every single second, you would just disappear. And all of a sudden you're like, well, that's the truth, right? Everything I see here, just because there's a drip of water at the end of this hose and I'm at the end, doesn't mean it's not coming from Niagara Falls on the other side. Once you study that enough, even though you can't see it, if you know it, you're going to want that bond, right? You're going to want to say, hey, you know what? I have a chance to learn for 10 minutes in a week. You could say, what's 10 minutes a week going to do for me? But because you understand, you've understood enough what that 10 minutes of learning does for you, which is better than no minutes of learning, you know it enough that it creates a bond where you are basically, it says when you learn Torah, you're being hugged by the king. You're being hugged, your mind is being hugged by Hashem. If that's what you want because you've decided that Hashem created the world and that Hashem makes all of this exist, and that there is nothing greater than Hashem, and that putting your eggs in the basket of anything that's not Hashem is just short-sighted, because why would you give power in your life to anything that's not the ultimate power? If you knew all of that in a way that you actually know it, it becomes a part of you. I don't have to fight with you to put on tefillin at the shir, right? You're like, hey, that's already good for me. I know, I want to do it anyway, right? It becomes much easier. With that, peace out.